Okay, so Tyler, what is your biggest tip for someone who's going to be a landlord for the very first time? Like a first-time parent, but a first-time landlord. Who's that?
Hey, you want to turn down your laptop here, bud? Welcome to the TNT Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Welcome back to the TNT Podcast. I'm Tanya, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Tyler.
What's going on?
Okay, I have a funny story. Okay, so our listeners don't know this. I don't think we talked about this before, but about a month ago, Ben and I bid on a tax sale property.
Right.
Yeah, so this property was like boarded up, used to be 5 units. Legally, it's probably only 4. We went to the property and it was boarded up. There's pigeons cooing in the attic and all sorts of things, like terrible. And in addition to that, I love, challenge and a fixer-upper. I'm like, I see the potential here. But the neighbor had spray painted on the foundation of the property a line that was like, my property here, your property there. And I looked into it a little further, and there is a pretty legitimate looking boundary dispute.
Right.
So the 2 properties were actually part of one parcel. It was like, a Catholic nuns thing and like, I don't know, the priest's house or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of how things were done. And it's up by Marymount, so it's in that sort of like French section of Sudbury. And anyway, in 2008, the property was split. But the boundary goes through the building.
Wow.
The 4-unit building. Like That's can see it. It's a bit of an issue. But I was thinking that the boundary would be an issue that you could sort of dispute because it was done improperly, right?
Right.
There's no way the boundary should have gone in the middle of the building like that. So anyway, regardless, we didn't get it. We were not successful. I was probably a little too frugal in what I would bid on this property. I mean, we didn't know what we were walking into. But then sometime thereafter, a couple weeks ago, I got a call from a gentleman who actually was one of the people who bid against us.
Oh,
he's not the successful bidder. Someone else outbid him as well, but he was actually successful in another tax sale purchase. And it was quite interesting to hear a little bit about that process. And he approached me because he had actually heard about our podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and thought it would be a good podcast. Yeah, it would be a good podcast episode. Yeah. So maybe the question to the folks listening, watching, is if you want to hear more about this gentleman's experience on purchasing this tax sale. It is so far. He closed on it just a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago. So far, it's a doozy. So if you want to hear a bit more about that, and if you think we should get him on or get his story published, give us a comment.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we'll get him. Okay, so today, it's sort of like in line with this whole tax sale thing, talking about being a landlord. So today we're going to talk about the real cost of being a landlord in Ontario.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like it's very glorified being a landlord, and how many doors that you own, and how many buildings that you can buy, and how much money that you could find floating out there in the atmosphere to be able to buy your buildings. But I feel like there's a lot of things that people overlook, especially when you get into it, and not even your first building, but a couple buildings in, you start realizing that like the real costs.
Yeah. Some people think it's just like easy money, right? Oh, I'm just going to sit back, collect the rent, and everything's going to be
minus
great.
Mortgage equals cash flow.
Yes.
But it obviously
there's a lot of other things in there that might equal 0 or negative.
Right. Such as, property taxes, insurance payments, vacancy losses, maintenance, capital expenditures, everything. Snow plowing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even think of that.
I have a bunch of clients that, throughout COVID came up here and purchased, and they're like, what's this line item for, $1,500? And I'm like, that's snow plowing.
Snow plowing, yeah.
Like, you got to get rid of the snow.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, because usually when it snows down in the GTA, it just like melts the next day or a couple days later.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
fun.
And
snow removal is a bit of a controversy too, right? Because some people say like, oh, I'll put in my lease that the tenants take care of the snow, but then as soon as the tenant doesn't take care of the snow, yes, it is your responsibility.
Right.
So a lot of people don't budget for that. Vacancy is another big one. And then repairs and maintenance. There's always repairs and maintenance to be done on a property, whether it's a single family duplex or even, certainly with a larger unit building, there's going to be a lot more maintenance.
And a lot of people kind of overlook the newness of the building. So, like it's only 10 years old and it's a duplex. So what's the issue? But as soon as, the roof does come due, like you're putting this 5 to 10% away off of your, monthly cash flow for that opportunity. It's not like you have to dig into, your savings. If you save 10% from every single month moving forward, you're not, there's obviously going to be a little bit of a pile of cash that, when something does happen, you're not, taking out of your equity or line of credit or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So
too many people, I think, bank on the appreciation factor and say, oh, well, I'll refinance it when I need a roof. Right. Well, that may not work if you bought in 2022 and you need to refi in 2025. It may not work. So what do you suggest, Tyler, for sort of estimates on like vacancy? What would you say you would want to put in your numbers if you're calculating?
I mean, so me personally is at least 5%, and it's just to kind of be safe. So I mean, in the last decade in Sudbury and probably even Ontario, maybe in Canada, like vacancy is very, very low at like 2% or less. But I feel like it's just, if you're, crunching your numbers with today's finances, everything might look all right. But if some things start to change a little bit, rents start to go down, vacancy goes up a little bit, you're going to eat away at your cash flow. So I would say at least 5%, which I think is pretty safe. It's not, I think it's still, fine for a long time coming. But yeah, at least...
Yeah, a lot of our landlords do experience some kind of cost whenever there's a tenant turnover. So like even if you're able to get tenants back to back, you have, hopefully somebody leaves a day early, gives you a good time to clean and paint before the next tenant. There's always at least that cost incurred. But more often than not, we usually have a 1 month or 15 day, like a half a month vacancy in between units, just for the cleanup, because people leave everything behind.
And I mean, it's important. And I tell a lot of my clients that it's more than okay just to leave your unit vacant for an extra month than put, a tenant that may or may not be a good tenant.
Yeah.
Just wait, eat the cost for that 1 month, find a great tenant, and your headaches will all go away. That
kind of brings us into our segment 2, which is legal and regulatory costs. Right. That is the perfect segue, because often, you can run into these issues. Even if you do really great screening, sometimes you will have a tenant dispute, and that's when you might have some of those legal and regulatory costs that are incurred. So just put a little bit of money away or have a bit of money saved ready in case that happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it costs money to, put your L forms into the landlord tenant board. There's costs if you need to hire a paralegal. Hopefully you don't need a lawyer for landlord tenant board. If you do, then that's obviously even a greater cost. But yeah, it eats away at rent very quickly when you get into this.
Understand as well, like what your legal obligations are and the process of going through that eviction, and maybe even get a little bit of education from an online course or something, or talk to a local paralegal, and maybe they can help educate you a little bit on just prior to you getting. Hopefully you don't ever get into one of those situations, but prior to getting into a situation like that, if you know your rights and know how to go about giving the notices, and giving the notices perfectly,
and I mean
that'll go a long way.
Yeah, and then like talking about costs, it's not just about financial costs. You can also go into the emotional costs of landlording. And I always remember when Alvin came up, who owns a TLM Media, it's a mediation company, but he was telling us about his first real estate deal and just how he just got screwed over by this tenant, unfortunately, and like he almost did he end up losing? I can't remember the full story, but he lost a ton of money and a ton of time, and they destroyed his property, and he didn't quit after that. Now he owns multiple properties.
He took it and turned it around. It was more like, this is a great learning opportunity for me. Okay, I had this terrible situation happen. I'm going to turn around. What am I going to? It's going to cost me a ton, but let's just consider this part of my education,
Right.
right? Instead
Yeah.
of paying tuition somewhere, this is part of my education
But
being a landlord.
Yeah, and I'm like, I can't imagine the toll that, finding. I've been lucky. I'm going to knock on wood. I've been very lucky with my tenants. I've never had to go to the LTB with mine, but I also feel like I'm a pretty good mediator, and I actually listen. So, but I think it's important in like those late night calls, or when they can't get in at midnight or 1 o'clock, or the toilet stops working. It's never in the middle of the day.
It's a Sunday. You're having dinner. You're out of town. Book a trip, and then something will go wrong with one of your properties.
Right. So I mean, you can't be too soft when you're dealing with tenants, but you also, you have to have a heart, and you have to figure out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were at some place that somebody else was supposed to be taking care of, and your toilet wasn't working, and your shower was leaking, whatever it is, I'm sure you'd be frustrated too. So you got to be very, conscious of who you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And, our tenants pay a good, healthy amount of rent. So they deserve a nice, good place to live. And if something breaks, it's on you to fix it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you can get like a manager or something. If you don't want to take on that emotional toll and dealing with it at 6 o'clock on a Sunday, then just get a manager. They will call the plumber for you. It should be all good.
Yeah, and then that eats out of your a little bit. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. It could eat out of your cost, but it could also, benefit you way more financially if you get a good property manager that can, exponentially grow. Then it's almost an investment instead of a cost.
Absolutely. So despite the costs, the financial, the emotional costs, all of the education, everything you have to learn before being a landlord, do you think it's still worth it, Tyler?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
110%. I mean, obviously we're a little bit biased because
we're both landlords.
We're both, addicted to real estate basically. So it's, it's hard. It's difficult. It's not for everybody, but in terms of investment, I mean, it's shown, especially over the last, really over the last century, that it's such a good investment to invest in properties. And lots of people, that maybe just have a RSP or TFSA, diversifying and buying a property that you're paying in, you can live in, you can enjoy. I think it's bar none my favorite investment, obviously, but I think it's important for everybody's portfolio.
I think it's great to treat it like a business. Like, treat it like a business. Be serious about it. Know your numbers. Go in it with your everything, all the knowledge you can, but also you're providing a home to people. It's very important that, you take it really seriously as well, and make sure that you're not, falling short of delivering a nice space for people to live in, and something that they will enjoy. Because when you treat your tenants well and you deliver a beautiful product, that's going to come back and pay you with respectful tenants, great relationships, and just the ability to move forward. When they move out, they'll hopefully, give you a great referral and find you another great tenant if you have a hard time doing it. So I think it can be super positive. So it's not just a business. Right. Okay, so Tyler, for somebody who's going to be a landlord for the very first time, just like a first-time parent, what's one of the biggest advice you would give them to start off?
The biggest piece of advice, but I have to, put a condition in there, is that just pull the trigger. Just do it. It's so easy to get caught up with the education and the, analysis paralysis, and just not making a decision and what's the right strategy. Just for the first one, just pull the trigger. And that my condition is like, have the right people around you. Use a realtor that actually knows what they're talking about, that either has investments or deals with investments, and they could kind of walk you through. And if you have family members or friends or buddies or sister-in-laws, whatever it is, make sure that you have a good team around you, and just do it. Just go for it.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. Great advice. Okay, so thanks for tuning into the TNT podcast. If you've liked this episode, please share it with a friend, leave us a comment below, and we'll see you next time.